We're live with Clive. This is an ABE sponsored live show. And this is a really good question. Really good question. This series is being sponsored by ABE in a quest to, I've sent you 100 US. Maybe this will inspire the cheap punters to send more in than the bare minimum. Now, ABE wants to know, please discuss the difference between $1,000 and a $5,000 watch with an ETA movement. What is the difference and why is it worth paying more?
Okay.
What do you think of that? I might just add a little bit if you don't mind, Clive.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the most common example of this is the Value 7750. That's the chronograph movement used by so many makers. And that 7750 movement is used in, say, an IWC.
Mm-hmm.
It's also used in, say, a Hamilton. It's also used in...
Now, do you mean the watch or the musical?
No, this is the watches. The watches themselves. Okay. There. It's also that same movement can also be used in a Breitling. Breitlings have used that movement there. It's a workhorse movement. IWC loves that movement, and even the in-house IWC I have, the base plate is based on a 7750 base plate because they said it was so good. Now the question is, what's the difference between a Hamilton watch with a 7750 and, say, an IWC? And I got to tell you, the whole reason for this existing is that what used to happen is watchmakers, not all watchmakers had in-house movements. In fact, it was quite acceptable for watches to have a general sort of movement. In fact, companies like JEWELLERY used to specialize in movements. Zenith is a huge movement maker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it went. Even Rolex used a Valjoux movement in their Daytonas. Your Hoya's got a Valjoux 22 movement in it. Nothing wrong with the Valjoux movement. That was accepted way of doing things. You had someone who made movements. You had someone who made dials. And I think the big thing is the difference between a $1,000 watch with an ETA movement and a $5,000 is everything except the movement. Like, put it this way. You have the case, how the dial is finished and designed. The hand. The other thing with these movements is there's different grades. You can get low grade 7750 movements, or you can get highly decorated 7750 movements. So they're available in a variety of finishing and standards. And with IWC itself, I mean, IWC is always very, very much, it's the design aesthetics of it. They're Germans. IWC comes from a German-speaking part of Switzerland, so they're meticulous fuckers. They don't just choose they didn't just decide to cobble a watch together overnight. This is years and years of...
Is that Schaffenhausen?
That's the one, Schaffenhausen. So, Clive, you tell me, what do you think the difference between a $1,000 ETA watch and a $5,000 watch? What's your you speak, Clive, speak.
Woof. Well, you know, like I said, we're talking about, and I think we were spitballing the other day and just trying to come up with the major components of a watch, wristwatch. What makes a wristwatch? What are the aspects that can be objectively graded? And movement was one of them. But no, it was the first. When we're spitballing, movement was the first one. Another aspect was its value, both value for money and its retention of value on the secondhand market. Aesthetics. How cool is the case? How cool is the dial? usability. How easy is it to use for its intended purpose? You know, versatility would be something to be looked at. Is this a watch that can be worn every day, but only for everyday events, or is it a dress watch that will be worn by most people twice a year? Historical significance. How long is this movement and how long is this case and the brand been made? Fit and finish is another one thing. How well is the case and everything else put together? How durable is it? How refined is it? One of your favorite aspects is prestige and exclusivity. You know, and for instance, the original Rolex, as you pointed out, the Rolex Daytonas. The people talk about the Zenith El Primero Daytona, but you know, I think the first Daytonas in like 62, 63 had the same value as the Hoyer Carreras. But that's not saying that the, so even though those old Daytonas had EDA movements, it doesn't mean that they were not prestigious. It doesn't mean that they weren't very exclusive. Does the watch have, what kind of complications or innovations does the watch have? And also, and finally, the other thing I had was reliability and servicing, but that almost goes back to the movement itself. And, you know, I don't think necessarily a watch having a good EDA movement is necessarily the biggest of sins. You know, some people may fault it for that, but on the other hand, if you want something that's cheap and reliable to service, an ETA movement is great. You can have it done locally. So I think I think the movement is one aspect of a watch. It's a very important aspect, depending on your preferences. But it's possible for a movement, you know, it's possible for a movement to be put in, you know, basically tinfoil, or it could be put in a solid gold case and bracelet.
So the value movement itself there, it's we're talking about the ETA 7750, just to give you an idea of who has used this movement here.
One of the things which I thought was interesting, we've talked about this, and I've thought about this a lot, and and it's the order of priority. You can tell how good the watch is. If a watch is not a very good watch, if it's not a very great brand, if they say, hey, it uses a value 7750, if that's one of the things they emphasize, that means it's not a very good watch. If on the other hand, they kind of try to bury it in the details, you know, it has this, and has value 750, that almost speaks more about the watch. That means the watch is more exclusive or prestigious.
Yeah. If they use the 7750 as a selling point, you know, it's a bit like General Motors. You remember General Motors? They had when front wheel drives came out, they had that as a selling point. We've got front wheel drive. Well, hang on a minute. Aren't rear wheel drives better?
Front wheel drive can have better traction, snow and ice. It also has better fuel economy.
It's cheaper to make. More importantly, for General Motors, it's cheaper to make. I mean, a car itself, the best car to have is a mid-engine car.
I had like a throwaway 86 MR2 from Toyota.
That's a mid-engine car.
Oh, yes, the Mr. 2. And the first generation, looked different from everyone else. Allegedly, it was designed by Lotus. Lotus designed the first generation, the MR2, and Toyota sent a bunch of 6 really good 6-speed transmissions over to Lotus. So it was kind of a trade. But that thing was fun. Oh my God, that thing was fun. It's the most fun you could have. It's the most fun you could have with a Corolla engine.
Now, Clive, I'm going to have to correct your lack of car knowledge. Do you mind if I do that?
Go ahead.
okay, Clive, because I find this really quite frustrating. Okay, your lack of car knowledge is sickening. Okay, so we're talking about the first MR2 that came out, right?
Right.
They actually stole the design from Fiat, Clive.
Ah.
It looks like a Fiat X19. Do you know what a Fiat X19 is?
No, we don't have Fiats in Oklahoma.
Okay, okay. This is the. Do you agree with me? This is the MR2. This is what the first series looked like. Yes.
Yes.
Let me show you something on the internet. Something called the internet. Fiat X19. Tell me whether you think that looks like an MR2.
No, I don't see it. Oh my God! You're saying Lotus? You're saying Lotus designed the Fiat X19? Wow.
No, I'm saying the X1, the Fiat. I'm saying Toyota pinched the design concept from Fiat. Okay.
Okay. Well, all right.
Now, where's this link with Lotus you're talking about here? See, look at these cars. These here look like an X1. Do you understand what I'm saying, or you don't see any resemblance? These were a 70s car. This is the Fiat X19.
Okay.
No, you don't see what I'm talking about, or you do?
Oh, it's angular. I guess it's mid-engined as well.
Yes. They stole the whole concept. Yes, they're real nasty. The Japanese are very good copiers, because the Fiat wasn't exactly known for reliability.
No, and the Japanese are. Of course, I wouldn't say that they're very good copiers, because I'm not racist like that. No,
it's a reality that they stole a lot of car concepts from other makers. That's a given. I mean, that's not being racist. That's just a statement of fact. The terrible thing is they manage to get it to work.
When you make a general statement about an entire race, that is what's called racism. Anyway, okay, but I see there's some, but one of the things, okay.
I mean, the Italians, they're exceptionally good at design, but nothing fucking works. Nothing fucking works with the Italians. They can't make anything fucking work.
No, it's kind of like, it's kind of like English cars of the Southern Mediterranean.
English cars are worse. Actually, they're as bad.
Right.
So get back to talking about ETA movements. I want to show you something, Clive. Have a look at this. This is the IWC GST Deep 1. That uses a Valjoux 7750 movement in it.
Right. Is it titanium?
Yes, it is.
It's funny how you can, after a while, you can tell by just looking at the picture, because of the lack of sheen.
Yes.
Dull.
Yes.
Dull.
The Valjoux movement. Look at these people here who use that 7750.
So you're saying the Japanese made Valjoux movements?
I'm not saying it. No, we're trying to get back on track, Clive. We drifted off. I'm trying to steer the conversation back onto the topic, Clive.
That the Japanese copied Valjoux movements.
I don't know what to say sometimes, Clive.
That means my work is complete.
So tell me this.
What
do you think? What do you think the difference? Would you buy a watch with a Valjoux? Well, you've got a lot of ETA movements, haven't you? Valjoux 22 vintage watches.
Mm-hmm. My Panerai also has a ETA movement as well.
You're proud of that?
PMZ. And actually, in the Paneristy world, a lot of people prefer the older style Panerais with the ETA movements rather than the in-house. Just because, I mean, because there's not really any long-term track record of reliability with the Panerai movements in-house. On the other hand, those ETA movements have been made forever and a day, so they're going to keep on ticking. What are you eating, by the way?
A pancake.
Okay, because you had because you have the screen on a web page, a generic web page, and you're not talking. When you're letting me do the talking and not interrupting or ignoring me, I get suspicious. Now, is that you trying to like moan agreement with me, or is that you enjoying the pancake?
Moan agreement with you.
Okay, pity. I was hoping you were enjoying the pancake.
I see.
Even though waffles are better. Yeah, but like I said, that's only one aspect. Movement is only one aspect of a watch. You know, and it could be simply how well is the
exactly right. I mean, this is the whole thing: is that it's not just movement is one aspect. Can you remember? This is another car analogy. Remember that a lot of European cars used General Motors, or they used American engines.
Right. I had a Isuzu Rodeo SUV with a GM V6 in it.
Yeah, that's because Isuzu is owned by GM. You know that, don't you?
Right. But they also took this exact same design and turned it into a Honda SUV at the same. Anyway, we're getting really
like you know the DeLorean. It had a Volvo engine in it. You know that it had the V6 engine, which they used on quite a number of French cars, European cars.
Right.
Because it costs so much money to design a movement, why not use a standard off-the-shelf one? It's going to save a lot of costs, and you can put that money into design and other excellence.
Right. But
so the question he's asking is
the other side of the argument, though, at what point does it then become a fashion watch?
Well, it becomes a fashion watch when the company has no history of watchmaking. Someone like IWC has a long, extensive history.
So if a fashion watch makes fashion watches long enough, it quits becoming a fashion watch and becomes true horology?
What do you consider a fashion watch? What's a fashion watch for you?
I could almost argue Cartier, but
yeah, actually, I would tend to agree with you, particularly
because it's more about this. It's more about the style than about the.
Well, I would say with Cartier, they've got two levels. They've got Cartier and they've got Musty Cartier.
Okay.
You know the difference, don't you?
No, actually, tell me about the difference.
Well, the Musty Cartier came out in the 70s. They're more of a lifestyle product because they use gold plating, vermeil, silver, and it has the Cartier in running writing, Musty Cartier. Whereas the Cartier, expensive Cartier, has the Cartier in capital letters. It's a class thing, Clive. It's a class thing.
Doesn't Cartier also make quartz movements?
A lot of their watches are quartz movements because they sell a lot to ladies.
Michael Kors being another example of a fashion watch. Gucci being a fashion watch. Maybe even Mont Blanc being a fashion watch.
Yes, a nasty fashion watch. So I think when you compare $1,000 ETA watch to a $5,000 ETA watch, there's more to it than just the movement.
Yeah, they do make nice. They do make nice pins, though.
Mont Blanc.
Yes,
they do. They do make nice pins. Clivey.
Yes, Potiphie.
So I think that answers the question on ETA movements.
Yeah, it's just one aspect, and Yeah, and that's just one of the aspects of a watch, and just the movement. So it's possible to have a $500 ETA movement, a $500 watch with an ETA movement, or a $5,000 watch with an ETA movement.
What is the cheapest? The cheapest Value 7750 based watch?
No idea. You mean MSRP or secondhand?
Either.
No idea.
No idea?
No. IWC? Is it the engineer?
There's actually this brand called APOGAUM, Apogam watches.
Mm-hmm.
And they apparently they make the cheapest EDA based watch. Here we go, Clive.
Actually, I've got a quick text in.
Quite nasty, okay. Clive. Look at these watches. You'd have to say they are nasty. What do you think?
It kind of looks like the bastard hybrid of a
Daytona,
a Breguet and a Daytona. I'd call it a Gaytona.
Yeah. So that's one of the. This is according.
Come
to
on, that was pretty decent. Come on, you have to admit that was pretty decent.
Yeah, that was okay. It was okay, Clive. Okay, Clive, let's wrap this show up. That's been a good show, Clive. Wrap that up.
Quick question from the fan of the channel. This is something you'd have experience in.
Sure, Clive.
Blazing Mark is asking if a $22 tip for a 1 hour full body massage is decent enough of gratuity.
20. Say that again, Clive. That's a very. This is my ears have pricked up. Say that again, Clive.
Well, yeah, I figured this would have your attention. Blazing Mark is asking, in your opinion, is a $22 tip fair for 1 hour full body massage?
Why would you tip $22? Wouldn't you just tip 20?
I don't know. I guess maybe it's a percentage thing. Well, and it also depends on full body.
I think $20 is very fair, don't you?
For a 1 hour, yeah, depending on how much it is.
Well, normally about $60 for 1 hour. If it's a non-sexual type massage, I would have thought $20 is. Normally, people don't tip if it's non-sexual.
Yeah, we tip over here if it's non-sexual. We just tip more if it's nothing at all. I wasn't going to say anything. Anyway, yeah. I
think that's very fair. What's wrong with that?
No, I think that's fair indeed.
Why was she upset? Was she upset with that? What happened? What's he saying?
I just, like I said, just got a question. Just is $22 a fair tip for a 1 hour full body massage? I'm like, in New York City, I have no idea.
In New York City.
Yeah, Blazing Mark is in New York City.
Oh, geez, that everything is so expensive there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Do we have any other ABE questions or segments? I have to admit, I'm liking what we're getting so far.
I've got another couple, Clive. Yes, we do. Okay, let's kill this one.